guys, welcome back to Electrified Reviews. My name is Mitch, and this is the UU1100 from ZOOZ, and this is going to be our long-term in-depth review. Let's get right into it. So I've had the 1100 for about 2 months now. Been doing a ton of riding. I rode it in the daytime, I've rode it in the nighttime. We've taken it on concrete, we've taken it on dirt. We've pretty much taken this in every environment that it has any right going into, and it's handled itself really, really well. And today I'm going to give you my professional thoughts on the UU1100 and what I've been able to uncover and learn about the bike in the 250 miles that we've put on it. So let's jump into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the motor here. Now this is their direct drive version. They have this, so their other 751 has a geared motor, so it has a little bit more low end torque, but this one has a higher top speed. And so me, 5'10", 220, I can pretty much constantly cruise around at 30 miles, 31 miles an hour on this thing, having it unlocked. Pretty easy to unlock. You just get in there, change a couple things, and you're ready to unlock the top speeds. If you want to keep it at 28 miles per hour, or limit it to class 2, I believe you can do all that sort of stuff in there. But you know me, I like to go fast and furious. So with this motor, it is virtually silent. I mean, literally probably is the quietest motor that I've ever ridden. Everybody who I've had jump on it, they basically say the same thing, especially if they've had any experience with e-bikes. They're like, well, I couldn't even hear it. And that's been my experience. It's pretty quiet, it's very loud. It seems like it just keeps going and going and going, just accelerates all the way up to that 30 miles per hour. The quickest way to go that I've found, and I got this from Chris, who is the owner of ZOOZ, he said you give it like 6-7 cranks. So you're doing some pedaling, and then after that you can just throttle it all the way up to up to 30, 31, 32. I've hit 33 I think once, but most of the time I'm cruising around about 30 or so. So big fan of this. It's a 52 volt system, as you guys might know, so that means we got a 52 volt battery. And the first thing I'll point out too before we kind of get into the rest of this review is you'll notice this is dirty, right? I mean, this thing is filthy, and I did that on purpose. It kind of ate me up a little bit seeing the chain with all this dirt and grime on it as I'm riding around, but this is a long-term review, and I will be keeping this bike even longer, so I'm going to be doing some modifications. So part of me has been waiting to do the modifications. I needed to finish this video, so hopefully in the next little bit you'll see me putting out some stuff with the mods and stuff that I plan on doing. So it is dirty. I haven't washed it, haven't taken care of it. I've just put 250 miles on it and let it sit because I wanted to run it and see sort of what issues we'd run into. Most products, if we take really good care of them, they'll last a lot longer, but this is a review, so in light of that, we just rode it, never cleaned it, never done anything. Like I said, we've taken it, you can see there's all the dust and stuff here. So I mean, it is pretty filthy. So just know that as we're getting into the rest of the review that yeah, it's dirty, and I know it. I'm aware, and I'm looking forward to cleaning it once we wrap up this review. So motor wise, love it. It is one of my favorite riding experiences. Now that's just me personally. I've been a big fan of ZOOZ since I found out about them a couple years ago. So now finally getting a chance to ride a couple of their bikes, it's been really fun for me. So the motor, definitely a highlight on this bike for sure. Now the battery we have here is a 52 volt 19.2 amp hour, so it's a little bit over 1090, something like that. I'm doing the math in my head, and it's a pretty big battery. And for me, I really mainly just use the throttle on this thing, so that's going to decrease our range quite a bit. But for me, I pretty much constantly get 25 to 35 miles depending on how hard I'm riding. If you're riding this thing, you're going 30 miles per hour everywhere, braking, going again, braking, going again. Yeah, you're gonna drain it a little bit quicker than regular. But if you pedal this thing around in class 2 mode, and it's not terrible to pedal, not quite as easy to pedal as the UF1200, which is their new Ultra Flex. We did a review on that, and a comparison video between the two. That one's a little bit taller of a seat, or I guess the seat goes back a little bit further, which gives you a better pedal geometry up here, and then also the seat post on that one's a little bit longer, so it's a little bit better pedal geometry. But if you do pedal this thing with 1,000 thousand amp hours, you can really do some damage here. So getting 35-40 miles plus, like, that's pretty realistic in my experience. But like I said, most of the time I'm getting between 25 to 35 because I'm just hammering on the battery. Charging port's right over here. You can remove it. I don't think I've removed this battery once since I got it. Maybe took it off just to look at it, just to see how it goes in there. But pretty much just leave it on, charge it here in the bike. I've got it set up in my garage, so pretty easy for me to do that. But if you have to take it off, if you're, want to charge it somewhere else, it's super easy to take it on and off. You got the keys, unlock it, pop it out, kaboom. So far getting some really good range and pretty much on par with what ZOOZ says you should be getting on this bike. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is going to be the seat here. Now, for some people, this might be a little bit thin. And I was even thinking, like, if I was going to do a custom seat on it, might look at making it just a little bit wider. It's still pretty comfortable to ride on. It gets a little bit wider as you get towards the back. So I haven't really had any issues with it. I'm not sore after I ride it. If I go ride it for 30 miles, this is pretty comfortable and sort of hits me in the right spot. But it could be a little bit thicker, could be a little bit more, cush, although the cush is pretty decent on here. Honestly, if it was just a little bit wider, might make it a little bit more comfortable. I do like that the seat goes all the way up to here. Now, I mentioned on the UF, like, they pushed it all back a little bit. Better for pedal geometry, but for my son, so he's 4, I'll throw him on the front, give him his handlebars right here, and he's got padding all the way up to the front. So in that, in that specific use case, I do like that this is up here a little bit further because he's got a good grip. I'm close to him, I've got a good grip, and so we can ride around and I feel pretty safe doing that. But other than that, I mean, it is black, so it gets hot pretty quick. It's already a little bit toasty. So if you were gonna leave this out for long periods of time, you might want to have like a cover or something like that, or just try to get in the shade because it's black and in Texas everything gets real hot. But nothing you can't sit on. It's not like overly hot. It's not burning my fingers or anything, but starting to get a little bit toasty. So all in all, I like it pretty well. Don't really have too many complaints about it, other than something I was thinking about is like, oh, maybe kind of do like a custom style, make it a little bit wider, maybe do a different color. But I'm getting into that's sort of the next video series, is customizing the ZOOZ. But so far I like it pretty well. So the next thing I wanted to do is tell you a story about how I ran over a screw and got a flat tire. And normally when you get a flat in the rear, it's a real pain in the butt to swap these out. With a lot of bikes, it's a hassle. With a single speed, a little bit easier, especially because we've got the tensioner here. I was replacing something on another single speed bike and it doesn't have these, so the tension on the chain when you have it in here is like it's pretty taut, so it's very difficult to get that back onto the sprocket. With these, you can loosen it, you use some good slack, makes this whole thing really easy to come on and off. A couple of extra bolts, obviously, you got to take this one off, take this off, and you can slide it out. But it was a lot simpler than I had expected. So the fact that we've got the chain tension here is super nice. It means that that's, if you do get a flat, it's easier to take the chain on and off and get everything set up back the way it was. But also it's going to have some really nice tension on the chain when you have it here, so you don't have any slack chain or have the chain rubbing against here. I'm sort of just going around and kind of pseudo cleaning some of these spots while I'm doing the review, because it does bug me a little bit, but I do it for you guys, right? Do it for the review. So yeah, so I did have to change a tire. Ran over a screw, replaced it with some stuff, put some flat out in it, and we're good to go. I mean, did have to get a new tube, but that was pretty simple to snag one of those. These 26s, or 24s by 2.4. Not super common. I didn't find one at Walmart or Target or any like just the regular sort of box stores, but Amazon's got plenty of those things. So having these is nice, good tension here, and it also makes for changing a rear tire a little bit easier. All right, the next thing I want to chat about is the brakes. So we've got these ginormous 203mm rotors and nice hydraulic brakes. I'm not sure who makes them. They're ZOOZ branded, so it just says ZOOZ bikes here. But I really like these. They're super sleek. We got motor cutoff inhibitors, which a lot of ZOOZers, if you may or may not know, usually detach these. Makes doing wheelies really hard when you're cutting off the motor every time you tap the brakes. So just something to note if you're looking to do some wheelies, that'll help you out quite a bit. So I like the grips, I like the way they fit in the hand, and they work really, really well. This is probably the easiest bike I've been on in a long time to actually skid. So no issues other than the rear one, back over here, has never stopped squeaking. Now I didn't take anything out, like I said, I haven't touched it as far, other than just changing out that tire because I needed to put some more miles on it. I haven't touched it or modified anything. So that's something where I don't know if they need to be, bedded, but normally that goes away within the first like 8 to 12 miles, and we're on 250, and it's still kind of squeaking a little bit. So I'm going to, pop one of these out and, see if maybe I can replace the brake pads or what we need to do here. Maybe they just need to be kind of sanded and broken in a little bit more. And then the one in the rear is a 180 millimeter rotor. So 203 in the front, 180 in the back. Not really a huge deal that they're different. When you're braking, a lot of your power is actually coming from the front anyway. So braking wise, love them. I've had a blast, riding this thing around, and spent a lot of time on a mechanical bike yesterday, a mountain bike in the woods and the dirt, and they had mechanical brakes, and it was kind of a nightmare. So I really, I'm glad that we have hydraulic brakes here, especially because, this is a little bit of a heavier bike, and we are cruising at, 30 miles per hour. 100% need hydraulic brakes for something like this, and ZOOZ is like, of course. So they added them here. No complaints other than the squeakiness, and like I said, I'm gonna see if it's the pads, or they just need to be broken in a little bit more, and then we should be good to go. So the next thing I want to talk about is the front forks and the lack of suspension. And as you can guess, it's a little bit bumpier, a little bit more jostly than a traditional suspension setup. And this is probably going to be the biggest thing I upgrade. See if we can throw some decent front suspension on here. Not a huge deal for most of the places that I ride with it, but as you guys know, like having something that has some suspension up in the front would kind of go a long way. So that seems to be one of the more common large upgrades that I see from some of the owners groups is throwing on some front fork suspension here. So I will probably do the same thing because most of the bikes, actually all the other bikes that I have, especially the ones that I keep long term, have a front suspension fork, and it does make it a little bit easier to ride, right? It's not just bouncing up and down like boom 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 boom. It's it's a little bit smoother. Now we can't get the full suspension feel, and we can't just throw us a seat post suspension or anything on here. Then that's what the UF1200 is for, right? Looking for the Ultra Flex. This is the Ultra Urban, right? So it's not supposed to be doing crazy things, and it's not full suspension, but having a suspension front fork I think will be a pretty big upgrade here. And while we're here, let's talk about this stem light. So this has been pretty sweet. When I saw it at Electrify Expo in Austin in November of last year, I was like, that is cool. Kind of a game changer thing, because most other bikes, they got lights mounted down here or somewhere else, but here it's higher up, right? So cars are used to looking about here. I mean, mounting on the handlebar is probably a little bit safer, but having it right here is pretty sweet. There's no extra bulk, and yeah, just super smooth. The only issue I've had with it is that you can see these cables, right? They're kind of out here like this. So what I would probably end up doing is finding some sort of cable management solution, and I don't know exactly how I'm going to do that. Maybe I'll check out the owners groups and see if people have found other ways to go about it. It doesn't block all the light, but it does cast a shadow, at least the way mine's set up right now, like on the right hand side. So sometimes I got to turn extra to the right to see a little bit further down the road. But it's pretty bright actually for not being very big. I mean, this is a very small footprint. It casts quite a bit of light, and as soon as you move these out of the way, you do see quite a bit better. And I think I have some clips that we can overlay here. All right, the next thing I want to talk about are the tires themselves. Now, as you can tell, these are definitely more of an urban tire than an off-road tire. I see a lot of people in the groups throwing on Maxxis's and something that has a little bit more terrain readiness, because these are not that. But these perform very well on the concrete. I've got plenty enough grip. 3 inches is my favorite tire size. So these at 2.4, they're a little bit oversized. So they have a little bit of the 3 inches in them. Don't quote me on that. And these ones, they work really well. So the only issues that I ever had with them was when I took it off road and it was in sand, but even in, and not like beach sand, but like loamy sand in some of the trails and stuff. And so for me, even with tires that actually are supposed to be there, some of that loamy sand areas really, puts every tire to the test. So not a huge deal that this can't handle that, because it shouldn't really be there. But if you did want to take this off-road, or take it in a little bit more of like a dirt trail environment, depending on, you know, what your local trails are like, if you're using it for commuting, or you just want to kick around in some different areas, probably want to upgrade these to something that has some actual knobs on it. But if you just plan on sticking to the city, these things roll super quiet and super fast. So, I mean, you almost feel like a ghost when you're just, you know, you're throttling it, you're going 30 miles per hour, you can't hear the motor, and these things are just fairly silent as well. So I like them, but if you're going to be doing something a little bit more off-roading, you probably want to throw on something with some knobs on it, some axes, something, you know, something like that. The next thing to talk about is the cockpit setup here. Now we got these BMX bars, and in my experience, going from, you know, BMX to a different kind of bar does change the way that the bike handles a little bit. It feels very nimble with these BMX bars on here. They're nice and wide. I think these are probably 7-inch bars, 6-inch bars, something like that. So a nice, you know, nice bit of height to them, and yeah, just fits really well. Obviously, it's all chrome, so just, you know, aesthetically looks pretty dope. The only complaint with the cockpit for me, because we talked about the brakes are great, throttle's great. I did mention something in the comparison video that the throttle should probably be on the inside of the brake, or I guess on the outside of the brake, because I don't need the brake. I mean, if I'm holding it like this, right, and I go to reach out with here, like I'm reaching way down here to get this. So this could be right about here. So this one could be swapped over here. This could be on this side, makes it easier to get to with your grip. And then this bolt kind of gets in the way, as you can tell. Make sure it's not on. But as you're pushing down, you know, that's kind of, you kind of got to go around the bolt and then put your thumb underneath it, which can kind of get annoying. Super easy fix. Definitely, as soon as I wrap this video, like the first thing I'm doing is taking this off and swapping those. But like I said, I wanted to ride it the way it came, not clean it, test it out. So that would be something I would switch out. Now onto the grips. So the grips are probably the only thing that I don't necessarily like. Like, they're fine, they look cool, but it's these like ridged grooves are pretty, they feel pretty tall. And so I feel like I'm gripping it, right? But then when I really grip it more, they all smash down. So it almost makes me feel like, you know, it's probably nice for the hands, probably a nice little, you know, bit of cushion. But the thing that, you know, maybe it's just like a mental thing. It's like I'm holding onto it like, oh, I don't really have a grip unless I'm, you know, gripping these down to get like a solid grip on the bars. It could be a me thing, but I'd probably swap these out. Now they don't have a locking mechanism on them, but you have to work really hard to turn these things. So I haven't had any issues with these, you know, turning whatsoever. But that's what I would do. You know, add some new grips. Probably go with whatever color palette I'm going to select here. But yeah, so I'm not a huge fan of these. I'm definitely going to swap these out, but they're decent. They're, you know, I don't really have a complaint other than sort of like a personal preference. Just makes me feel like I'm not really holding onto the bar, but there's probably benefits to that. Like I said, like it's, you know, got a little bit of absorption here from stuff, so, you know, a little bit of suspension in there. I don't know, but for me, that's something I would swap out. So then going over here to our display here, turn it on. We've got our on button right here, and then we've got our up, plus and minus right there. So go ahead and turn it on. I don't know what it looks like on the GoPro. Kind of hard to see. The sun kind of came out. We were in the shade, but now the sun's reflecting like a bad angle for this video. That's okay. But the display, you know, it's real small, real compact. Still easy enough to see at night. It's LCD, or it's grayscale LCD, so it's not, you know, colorful or anything like that. Not a huge deal for me because I don't really care about what this says other than, you know, our mileage. Right now it's sitting at 240, but by the end of this video we're gonna be at 250. That's why I've been saying 250, guys, because I can predict the future. And this is, yeah, like I said, very simple display. We got our pedal assist level. I don't know if you can see any of this stuff, so I'm just kind of talking about it. Maybe I'll have a picture on here somewhere so you can see what I'm talking about. So we got our speed. It says 0 because, you know, we're not going anywhere. Our battery up here in the left hand corner. We've got our pedal assist level underneath there, so you just go up on that, 1 to 5, back down to 1, and then our mileage. And we can swap between a couple things like our trip odometer, our max speed for that trip, and average speed for that trip. We haven't gone anywhere yet, so that's why those are at 0. But yeah, so nice little compact display over on the left hand side. Means, you know, this is nice, wide, and open. So cockpit wise, I think they nailed it. It feels really good. The only thing, you know, like I said, is switching out these grips and then swapping those, and we'll be good to go. And that's going to cover it for most of the specs and my experiences with them. So let's go ahead and take it out and do some performance and handling tests with it. All right, so we are outside for the ride test portion, and we got it turned on. Let's start out with what everybody wants to know. How fast does this thing accelerate? How fast can we get going? Let's just do it. So we're starting off at 0. Go ahead and just hit the throttle. No pedaling, even though the fastest way to get up to speed is doing a couple pedals right in the beginning. Now when it takes off, like I mentioned, it has less low end torque than their 750 motor does, but it literally accelerates the same speed from 0 to 10 to 10 to 20 to 20 to 30. It just keeps going faster and faster and faster. And it's just silent. So I'm kind of going straight into a wind right here. Going straight into the wind. Yeah, we were just cruising. Yeah, what the heck, wind? I'm gonna do a brake test here. I mean, just stops so well. I mean, even some of those lighter bikes don't stop as well as these do, I feel. All right, let's go ahead and do it again. We'll get the wind in our back now. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. And you can just cruise on like this literally for, you know, hour or two, just cruising. That's how I ride it. This is where I ride it. Just ride it around, have a good time. Yeah, as far as handling goes, very nimble. I mean, you cut it in. If I was a little bit more wheelie inclined, this thing is great for wheelies, endos, stoppies, you know, all sorts of crazy stuff see people do on these things. I'm not quite there yet. I'm still at the beginning of my wheelie journey, my wheelie fun journey. All right, we're cruising. Enough puns. There, this corner again, just cutting in and out, super easy. And you see what I mean? I don't know if you can hear that. The rear brake just squeaked. It has squeaked since I got it, you know? That's my only complaint. People are like, why do dogs always bark when you go riding? It's like, wow, because that rear brake. Now the front one doesn't. So if I do just the front, no squeaking. It's just that back one. So I got to figure that out. That'll be part of the figure out process. But like I said several times already in this video, riding it the way it comes. Not even cleaning it, even though I want to. Yeah, we're just, I mean, this is riding a ZOOZ, you know? You're sitting down, got your feet on the pedals, but your feet ain't moving. You are just cruising. Nice easy braking. Gonna do a little pedaling here. Give it a couple pedals and bam, you're at 25 miles per hour. It is sweet. I don't know why I'm not going any faster than 27, 28. So I'm just trying to pick up some speed there. And the reason I say that is I've gone 30 miles per hour on some of these bike paths, but today I was got a little performance anxiety or something. I'm just trying to convince you all that I'm a big fat liar. the brakes here. Easy peasy. Actually, let's go back this way. But yeah, this is my it's my everyday ride now. I need to go to the gas station, pick something up, take the ZOOZ. Need to go somewhere, you know, that I can't or that I don't have to drive to, taking the ZOOZ. It's just it's always ready to go. You sit on it, hold the throttle, scooting around. I stand up and do a little pedaling, do that too. Woo! Then you want to sit down, take a break, you can do that too. Such a scientific ride test run right now. I'm gonna do a nice little brake test here. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So yeah, so braking here, super convenient. The saddle's nice, you know, you're more towards the back, it's nice and wide. Or wider in the back. You can race Super Duties if you want to. Keeping up with them. That just cruising. Such a beautiful day. Guys, I think that is going to do it for our long-term in-depth review on the ZOOZ UU1100, the Ultra Urban. Now, there's not a whole lot of specs mentioned here. This has pretty much just been my use case, what I've experienced with the bike. And so if you want to know more actual specs, you can head on over to electrifiedreviews.com. We'll have all the specs there. And besides that, lots of people have put out some really great reviews on these already. So we're a little late to the party when it comes for, you know, like hard-hitting, fresh reviews. But we have gotten to actually use this one quite a bit. We've had it for 2 months, and normally we don't get to do that. So the fact that we did get to do that on this one is dope, especially because, yeah, I'm keeping this one long-term, baby. Keeping it, running it to the ground. Although now, actually, literally as soon as I hit stop recording on here, I'm gonna start taking care of it. I'm gonna give it a bath. First thing, gonna give it a bath. Then it's on to Amazon to order bike parts, and then come back for part 2 when we soup this bad boy up. It might be here, it might be on my other channel, Innovation, ENNOVATION. But either way, I will be putting out some more ZOOZ content here in the next little bit. Thank you guys so much for staying with us. If you guys want to know about ZOOZ, I'll have a link to them down below. And if you guys got any questions for me, let me know down in the comments. I love talking to you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.